Hey, what's up, guys? Welcome back to another episode of the SD Show. Today I'm joined here with Hamad and Johnny from different ventures that we're going to be talking about. They're co-founders of SoundSafe AI. They also work with Galena and Invasivemedia as well. So we're going to be talking more about like a lot of their ventures, and I'll give them this time to introduce themselves. So Hamad, let's talk a little bit about you and how you sort of got into this.
Absolutely. My name is Hamad Dada. I'm co-founder of SoundSafe AI. Came from the Middle East. I grew up in Canada. Been a Galenian here in Illinois for about 4 years now. Music background, record producer for several years. Education in cybersecurity. Met John, almost a decade ago, and then we kind of brought it up to what it is today. Trying to maximize the potential that we can bring to the table.
Absolutely, absolutely. Johnny, let's hear a little bit about you.
Yeah, my name is Johnny Stevenson, co-founder of SoundSafe, also co-founder of Invasivemedia and founder of Galena. Kind of like Hamad said, we met about 10 years, a decade ago, and about in 2011 we came together at a writing camp in Los Angeles, in Venice Beach, and then we'll probably tell you more a little bit about that as well.
Absolutely. It's been a pleasure getting to know Johnny, getting to know Hamad. And, we also had a podcast with Zach yesterday that you guys are going to hear about soon. And, I would love to know more about how you got started. What was your introductions, to music, to different types of art and, photography as well and videography as well for Johnny and whatnot. So let's start with how Hamad, you got started off with music and, how your childhood was like.
Absolutely. I grew up in the city of Montreal, Canada, on the East Coast. It's a melting pot. You get to meet a lot of different cultures. So you see everything from inside of the house to how people deal with business. Music came naturally throughout the house. I went through, everything from a Casio to a Fender Squire jazz bass. And then the first few days in a DAW changed my mind completely about what electronic music can be. In parallel to that time, I've always been in the different arts, whether it be designing, painting, and things like that. But there was definitely an engineering side to the whole thing. I also loved computers, so naturally, cybersecurity education was organic when it came through. A few years later, telecom was a path that I took, and then eventually, took more of a music path, and then that kind of crossed over the lines with technology. Yeah, and we're trying to mesh it all together.
That sounds really awesome. Yeah. Do you think there's something that runs parallel through all of these different realms, like maybe painting or maybe technology, maybe like cybersecurity? Is there something at the very core of it, that you kind of?
I mean, someone would definitely say there would be, but that would be giving it too much of a simplicity. I would say just, a drive to know more and do more.
Okay. That makes sense. Okay, Johnny, let's hear a little bit about your childhood, where you grew up and, how you kind of like got into this.
Yeah. So my background, kind of like Hamad said, we've been musicians and been around music. I've managed a lot of musicians. Did in my first internship in a music distribution company. Nice. I grew up off and on between Galena and San Diego. So I was fortunately born in San Diego and moved to Galena at a young age and got to just visit back and forth. So kind of had the pleasure of both worlds, being in the cold sometimes and then being in the weather of California. Nice. I've always had a passion for music. My uncle was in music and the reggae industry. So as a child, I've always wanted to do something in music and I didn't know. And it first started out with writing and then producing and mixing and mastering and trying to do all my own things, video, photo. And then eventually I learned the business side a little faster, where I let people do the things that I wasn't so good at. So like anything tedious, like I love mixing and mastering my own music, but I was very bad at it and it just took too much time. So then I learned to like delegate that and meet people that did it. Mm-hmm. So I didn't have to do it myself anymore. And that kind of snowballed into like managing musicians in Chicago. One of my close friends and artists I managed in Chicago was Tay 600. This was probably about in 2015, 16. And that was during the drill music days of Chicago, when like Chief Keef, Tay 600, Rondo Number 9, all these drill rappers were, they were the narrative of music in this drill hip scene. Right. Now you see it influenced all the way in the UK and all over the world, drill music impact. So it was beautiful to be a part of one of the biggest impactful music probably eras we've ever had in music when it came to drill music. Starting drill music, I would say probably started in Atlanta and kind of spread out everywhere else. But Chicago was one of the ones that kind of put the staple in it. And that gave me a lot of kind of education.
Yeah, it was a pleasure getting to know a lot about your music experience and about how you sort of had a lot of the managerial experience within the Chicago drill music scene. And what do you think kind of like inspired you to like, get more into that genre versus like, other genres?
Yeah. So, when I was younger, I just would love music. So I listened to rock, metal. My brothers and family listened to all different types of stuff, but hip hop was like the only thing I think that I connected the most with, being like from a bigger city and living in a smaller town. Yeah. It really kind of influenced me. And then eventually I just got out of the town.
What was it about hip hop though? Was it like the storytelling aspect? Was it like something else?
I think it was the culture.
The culture.
Yeah, 100%. You don't see much of that anymore, of how it brought a lot of people together. Mm-hmm. Specifically what it showcased, like where you live, the poverty. Right. It painted a perfect picture, and it kind of told stories of like, how my family and we kind of grew up, and it just made me relate to it, even though I didn't get to grow up. Fortunately, I got to grow up, out here as well. So I didn't have to be in the poverty of where I'm from. So it was nice.
Absolutely. It's been a pleasure kind of learning a lot about that. So let's talk more about how you guys met, when you guys met for the first time, and then how that sense of collaboration kind of fostered over time.
Yeah, absolutely. We worked through mutual artists.
Yeah, I was going to say,
between North America. I would say the early inceptions, we worked with mutual artists. Johnny managed, releases for a bunch of the guys, and, who they produced with and which track selections to go with. And he landed on me as I was producing one of these artists, and maybe a couple of them afterwards. And then naturally we just, really saw that beyond our, niche skill sets in the record industry, we both saw business in the same way. We both were managerial in the background. We both have that experience, which kind of just organically brought us to early 2021, where we had set up a writing camp in Venice Beach. At the time, we were writing, songs for Post Malone and different camps like that. Johnny had at the time incepted Invasivemedia in his first times with Zach. They flew in, to showcase the whole thing, document what we were doing. And that's when we really started, kicking different ideas and what we've been learning in tech and this. And that's when the ideas really started sparking. It's evolved many folds since, but yeah, I would definitely say that was its first inner workings.
Yeah, I would say the artist he was talking about was Sales, who was a R&B hip hop artist from Montreal, who was also a mutual friend from Montreal of Hamad, and that was a decade or plus ago. And Sales became one of like my closer friends rather than managing an artist. Flew out here to Galena multiple times. We traveled all over, did music together, recorded music. But I think Sales had the same mentality and knew the type of people that I like to work around. And when he introduced me to Hamad, it was just like having somebody who was a producer, a tech mindset, business mindset. Mm-hmm. When we met in Venice Beach, we just knew like, okay, we were a little bit more hungry, I would say, at the time to do more and learn more. We were the first, first to wake up every morning, and then also the last ones to go to bed usually, just because whether we'd just be up doing stuff or music or just talking. So that's where it initiated. It was in Venice Beach, and I had so many problems with music as far as managing and tools. If you weren't part of a label during like the late 2000s of like 2015, 2016, 17, 18 was the time where I was managing a lot of artists, and we were making money, but we didn't know what to do with it. And then tools weren't available as far as like distribution, monetizing, analytics. Mm-hmm. So that's what transitioned me more into the marketing side of music as well. And Hamad was like, well, there's a lot of tools we could look into, build. And we just, like he said, had the same issues with music. And as a producer, he had the issues of like not getting paid, not tracking his stems in music. And then as me being a manager, and knowing that, even used to being a producer and knowing the problems, but not selling, but understanding, managing the process of the headaches, and we just wanted to build something that would make sense for what was going on during that time. And it's still going on to this day, just IP rights and issues with music.
Absolutely. Did that kind of lay out the foundations for SoundSafe AI, like watermarking music?
I mean, I would say it was the genesis between a lot of what we did. What really rolled out SoundSafe AI, it's trackability, the ability to be robust. At the same time, we were tracking synthesized music. The AI moniker at the end, the SoundSafe, is exactly that, artificial intelligence. And not only do we use it for the tracking, but we're looking for what is also generated by AI. But more than anything for music, obviously for content protection, but that new technology brought in issues like people, using your voice or your likeliness, whether it's without authorization and just for creative, fun, or without authorization and they're trying to imitate you for, malicious reasons. Yeah. That really opened us up to more of the security thing. And then audio itself can do so much. And then we realized when we were interacting with it, we had different things where we started fusing data, and it was just natural to fuse video data along with it. That gave us not just a 1+1. When you do that, it's really a 2x2, and you get exponential from there. The more you make it powerful. And then that's what brought us to sensors, because, sound became before the light, and then everything was felt. So in a sense of, we see first, and then, we hear first, then we see, and then we feel it. Now, there was an open gap over everything. A lot of people were just getting that information and displayed on a panel and the data. Yep. Nothing was correlated. Nothing was made sense of. And that's when we started thinking of how can we come up with something that is smart enough to take these 3 layers of information and give you the highest situational awareness possible.
Absolutely. That is a great level overview of SoundSafe AI. How would you say, would like a formal introduction go of the company itself? Like, what its use case has become, what, you guys sort of envision it to be before, and how it has evolved over time?
I mean, absolutely. The record industry and the content industry is very huge. There are multiple platforms springing up every day. The ones that already exist are growing exponentially as well. There's more and more content being created, more and more being uploaded every second. It's getting more of an endeavor to track and see who owns what, who is owed what, and where. People are very creative as well, so it's not only maliciousness, as we said. Chopping a sound or video is very common. A lot more people are doing so. It's not just creatives, as we say. The common consumer is now making all kinds of art, quote unquote, and posting it. That's an avenue we really set our foot in. Even PROs like ASCAP have given us accolades for that by having us join their cohort. We've been written on by Billboard in terms of what we were doing for securing content. But beyond that, there are multiple industries that require that same technology in order for them to track and verify their audio.
Yeah, I guess it would say the inception was music and IP protection, but as AI advanced and became more accessible to the everyday person, so did the threats. Kind of the threats kind of came more real. Like, obviously, sampling music and vocals have been a thing forever, but as that came, people started sampling people's voices with AI and deepfake videos with AI, and all the way down to civilian, to even a lot of defense things we are looking into. And our end goal is not just, the public sector, it's all the way from public to defense. And it all started and birthed from audio intelligence.
Yeah. Okay, help me understand this. So I've seen on social media sometimes when, we're using these trending audios and stuff like that, certain music will be copyright protected, but then as soon as you change the wavelengths of that sound a little bit, like make it more lo-fi and stuff, those types of music tracks all of a sudden, won't be that copyright
it's
heavy.
So funny.
You could sort of use that. So,
yeah. Well, it's funny because, even being a video editor, you have to really pay attention to what music and sounds you use that are copyrighted, especially for social media. And that's kind of funny. He brought this up because Hamad talks about that all the time. That's one of the main things is social media, even Google. There's a lot of people that, been doing this for decades, security, and especially in content industry. But as soon as you EQ, manipulate, lo-fi, reverb, anything to some of those tracks on social media, you can re-upload it and it works now.
Yeah.
And Hamad can explain, and we go beyond that.
Tracking and being able to attribute has always been, a very blurry area. You stretch a song's speed by a little bit or high, or pitch it up or down. Some trackability is still available after that, but most of it has gone out the window.
Oh, wow.
So robustness is something that we looked at as much as we can, while also embedding, because just scanning, which we also do, on a neural, just as, at the snapshot of a sound or the snapshot of an audio, that is done too. But we like to call something called acoustic DNA, where we embed certain pieces of information, where not only can we scan and recover, EQ'd or compressed or reverb stuff or things like that, but even if there was an intent of removing a watermark, as long as there's a certain amount of fragments left, yes, it can be retrieved. Detection can also work and blindly as well. A song doesn't necessarily have to be watermarked.
Yeah.
As long as we know that we're tracking a certain song itself, we have its snapshot, as we say. We can see what was derived from it as well as what was trained and output from it.
Yeah. Because you can see in music, interpolation is like a thing, if you know what that is. Interpolation basically is somebody replaying a melody or a beat or production or instrumental, very similar to something that's previously been made, whether it's the same chords, the same hook, the same bar, 3-4 bars, even sample. It could be anything, all the way down to a one shot, like Hamad said. We wanted to be able to track it. We just saw there had to have been a way to forensically, like Don said, I guess Hamad, I call him Don. I should clear that because that's his producer name and I've known him for so long. I always just call him Don, but his name is Hamad. Hamad has always, from a producer's aspect, understood that it needs to go farther than just a tag or an embedding of a simple watermark or identifier. It needs to go forensically almost.
Mm-hmm. That makes sense. Okay. Do you think your prior experience in the music industry plays like a huge role in how this vision is going to go forward and, sort of really be, a big use case for these music industries and these record industries to kind of implement that technology within models?
They've seen it up close to know that it has the potential to completely change the underlying way of doing things. Yeah. It's a question of adoption. The more they adopt it, they've seen that we're agnostic too. It's not something that is just, it works with us and it's one door in, one door out. We're CWR, DDEX compatible. It speaks with everything that is standardization in the music industry. So again, it really comes back to, once we deploy at the highest level, the who and what of the record labels, who takes it on to themselves. And that's what we'll see as a trickle down to different catalog owners, smaller size labels, and down to the consumer themselves.
Right. That makes sense. And outside of the music industry, what other use cases are present for SoundSafe AI?
Absolutely. Yeah. In audio, I would definitely say, it speaks for itself. For everything from public security all the way to defense, when it comes to watermarking audio, it's the trackability and the same thing, and the preventing tampering. But I would say more outside of the music industry would be Maya, which is our deepfake detection. We're looking to deploy that obviously on everything that is Zoom and any conference room setting or company conferences, but as well as on mobile devices, because we're going to see more and more AI being employed, whether it be maliciously or not. You're going to get a call from Citibank, per se, with an AI agent. There's nothing wrong with that. But it would be a cool thing to know that you're speaking to a human or not. Whether you want to proceed with caution or not, that should be, to your discretion. But there's also, we're seeing an uproar in cases of people with malfeasance behind their intentions, and whether it be in a corporate setting or a residential setting, there are people more vulnerable than others, and we're trying to protect them by giving them a trusted source of a solution or a tool where they can be in real time told who they're talking to and what kind of caution they should be taking.
Absolutely. That's really great work that you guys are doing. And I kind of want to segue into sort of Invasive a little bit as well.
Absolutely.
And Johnny, I want to hear more about how you're expecting. Like we heard the conversation with Zach and how you guys sort of moved, with videography and whatnot. How were your early days with that kind of experience?
I mean, from like getting out of high school, being around music and making music, I recorded my own videos, recorded my own music, and then eventually, I delegated. Like I said, I'd learn. But being around, after managing artists, you're around cameras so much. You're around videos. Being on tour when I managed artists, I had to hire a videographer, photographer all the time, and that was probably the biggest pain point I had when it came to media and building websites, graphics. That's where Hamad came in with us on Invasivemedia. Was like I could do it, but like again, it would take me 10 hours to build a really good graphic, rather than people like Hamad could crank out like 5 or 10 in those that many hours. So it was a learning experience. I learned everything at first, and then learned that I couldn't do it, and what I like to do, I just kept running with it. Mm-hmm. So I guess the passion came from just being around it all the time, media, from videography to websites to marketing, everything you could think of in media marketing. Just doing it yourself as a manager was a headache. So in 2000, I think it was 19 or 18, I can't remember exactly, is when I met Zach. I'm sure he expanded along on the story. One of the artists from Iowa asked me to help him manage some of his work, and I met Zach was taking photos at the time for that artist, and that's kind of how we met. But when I met Zach, it was just kind of like how me and Hamad, we worked together really well. Like we just talked, and we're like, hey, yo, what do you plan to do? We feature like stuff aligned, goals and dreams. And I at that time I was managing a DJ from Brazil. It was this Flow Key and a Miami artist named Dooley Banks. So I was traveling to Miami and Orlando to visit Floki while he was living there in a YouTuber kind of house. And I needed somebody to follow me. Even though Zach at the time only did photos, I just needed what we were doing and capturing. Like Hamad knows this, being in studios, the moments, the traveling. Hamad's done, he's been in the same situation. Not having a videographer, photographer kills us because we're doing everything once again. And that just killed us. So we were blessed to bring Zach on. After I met him that first day, we kind of just took off. I was like, Zach, would you want to come do a lot of these things with me? Like I travel a lot. Would you want to go to these studios with me and record some photos? And over time, Zach and I just kind of learned a lot through media and just together doing that. Mm-hmm. And that snowballed into, like Hamad said, to fall back on the story of how we met. His manager, Sauce, shout out to Sauce, from Montreal. He was managing the writing camp out of LA. Yep. And I saw on Instagram, me and Zach were filming something in Miami, and I saw on Instagram that they were like living in Venice or living in California. I think it was Venice at the time. And I was like, what? Like, who's there? And I found out like there's a bunch of people there from Montreal that I knew. And Sauce was like, well, would you guys want to come film? This would be more for like some experience and stuff. So it wasn't like something we were like, we're going to get rich on. It was just something we knew at the time we needed to take that leap. So me and Zach left Miami, came back to Galena, packed up and went to Venice Beach. And that was really started SoundSafe, I guess, his career in music, everyday filming content, so social media and music videos and just behind the scenes of daily stuff of our life. And right after the year we spent out there, me and Zach got back. We ran out of money, and the writing camp was finished, and we all kind of wanted to stay together. But financially, we all kind of just had to do our own thing. So like, me and Zach went back to Galena, got an apartment here. We really figured out we need to go a little more commercial and also service people locally. So we really stuck our heads down and focused on that. That whole time, to fast forward things, me and Hamad built our first company called Crypto Loops, which is in blockchain. We were watermarking audio loops and vocal samples. Mm-hmm. Same thing we were doing, but found a way more robust way years ago with AI. And me and Hamad are on FaceTime every day, just trying to figure out, what we can do, what can we build, when, branding, everything for the first tech company. But I was always in his ear, and I'm sure he'll tell you, like, I was like, hey, come to Galena, come to Galena, Illinois. And as you know, being here in Galena, it's not being from a big city and you go look up Galena, you're like a town of 3,000 people. Didn't make sense, and Hamad can kind of give you his point of view, but that's where like, I think Invasive really started is when Hamad, like me and Zach always had the idea of wanting to start Invasive and he had logo. And then when I met him, it was like, we took it up, put it in business and ran with it. But when Hamad came in, we could offer web design and be a full service marketing company because we did all the video and photo and marketing and management, but we needed a third. And that's kind of when it started. We really kicked in the media stuff. That's kind of the story of Invasivemedia.
That makes sense. So Hamad, you moved from Florida to Galena?
Oh, he has a California, Montreal, California.
For the past few years before becoming a Galenian, as a Canadian, I often traveled just, to meet and greet and network with people out here. And, I would go back and then it would be regular, just, visitation as a tourist. And then, then I came down to Galena, that was 3.5 years ago. And that was, simply to LLC, get the stuff going.
Just a quick couple months.
Yeah.
Work on some
2 months
stuff,
and then
music.
I'll see you, my man. I'll fly in when I need you, or need to come in. And then
you never thought about like living here at that time?
Absolutely not. Absolutely not. No, it was a touch and go, as my history has always been, living out of Montreal and then just, coming in just to network. Even I wouldn't say doing business out here. It was just, touching base with music the people that I knew. It was just keeping in touch, more or less. But that time, it was to come and register the business. And then, we didn't register it right away. Things got delayed, this, that, and the other. But at the same time, is what happened is I fell in love with Galena, and I fell in love with the rapid, I would say, iterations that we were doing. We were able to focus a lot more. During that time, we also traveled, like you said, we went to Miami, went to Florida, and a bunch of places just to see where we're going to be based out of. Obviously, we ran back just because of burn rate and the terrible expenses that we'd be facing, being in the same place. Obviously, you have a lot more chances in encountering, the right people in terms of investments out in those bigger cities. But we weren't looking to rush into anything, so that didn't matter whatsoever. We came to Galena, and then we had a baseline of relationships that Johnny pretty much established over the last 2 decades, to go off of, which was a variety of people. Your regular go to every day job goers, 9-to-5ers, down to multi-business owners and landowners and farmers, down to the city politics. You got your mayors and bank directors, this, that, and the other. And eventually that really became an ecosystem that we have fully integrated with. And it, we've been benefactors by obviously giving first. We've been community players from day one. Johnny will tell you the day that I arrived, straight from O'Hare, these guys picked me up and they're like, we're going on a quick shoot. And it, happened to be one of the Galena's, girls sports teams that they were having a pretty serious game, and it was almost like a welcoming committee getting there. I mean, you had law enforcement heads, you had all the teachers, the superintendents, the dean of this, the parents of that, and it just kind of was a sign of this is your first hour. So just imagine. So, and it hasn't let up and it hasn't disappointed since.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I guess to give you a backstory on in more detail. Me and Zach were filming some high school sports. We were just we noticed the local community is big on sports. Small town sports is very big. But as a kid, I played basketball my senior year. That's it. And I've always looked up to playing sport. I played sports my whole life, but I was outdoors kid. I skateboarded and I ran the streets more than I should have. And senior year I played sports, and I just remember, I wish we had somebody to document it because I was so into media and music stuff at the time. I remember dang, I wanted someone to tell my story at this. Nobody's gonna be able to, you're not gonna be able to see this part of my life. So, me and Zach wanted to give back, and we started just helping the local volleyball girls. The basketball team the year before had Hamad fly out, went to state, and we went and filmed them. Unfortunately, they lost, but that following year, the girls' local volleyball team, the varsity team, went to state, and this year we got to go film it. But we got called like last minute and they're like, hey, would you guys come out? They're going to state in the next couple of days. And we're like, yeah, of course. I forgot Hamad was flying in the day of the first state game. Yeah. So we were like, we drove from Galena to Chicago O'Hare, picked up Hamad, drove all the way down to not Springfield, but Illinois State, where the state volleyball game was. And Hamad literally we stayed at the hotel where everybody in our town was. So Hamad had to meet the mayor, like all the parents, the teachers, the cops. But it was a good introduction because in a small town, you kind of need to, it's weird. It's just different. It's not weird in as a negative way, but there's a melting pot of people. So it's from tourists that live here, that moved here, people retired. But the local community is hard to connect with in any town. So it was good that he got to experience right when he got into town. And I think that kind of too made us propel a little forward, because then adding another person on the team means Zach could do a lot more.
Yeah. Oh, that sounds like a really enjoyable experience. So tell me this, like you guys have been all over the place, California, Florida, Montreal. What is it about Galena that, you guys really love and, kind of it's at the core of your heart and you guys like, it makes you want to stay here forever?
Yeah, I guess for me, my mom moved here in 97. My story is a little weird. My mom wanted to give us a different opportunity because where we're from, it was a very bad neighborhood in San Diego. And she didn't want me to grow up kind of like some of my cousins and her cousins and our family members. So we kind of just drove out here my mom had met my stepdad here in California, and he's from here. So that's kind of how I got here. But I'd never seen snow or seasons as a kid when I came here. And that was the biggest thing I fell in love with. I would say is the 4 seasons, which led to like small town community. I mean, a lot of people don't like being in small towns because of accessibility to food, traveling, but we traveled. And then after traveling so much, you realize, and watching other people in business and tech do a lot of traditional things of being in coastal spaces. We want to just we always weren't the ones to follow the narrative. Like me in general as a kid, and I'm sure Hamad, didn't follow the traditional things our parents did and people did around us. Yeah. So we didn't want to do that. So that's kind of my reason why I wanted to move our hub here and like all my businesses here. But I would touch back on your question, like why Galena and kind of why. It's the people, not just the community, because the community is probably the biggest driving force. The way this community supports each other is like none I've ever seen. And when it comes to business being integrated with that, and people from all over the world here, like Hamad moved here, and we didn't think that there'd be any Lebanese people here, and then fortunately one of our friends, Boldy, he is a chef at Vinny Vanucci's, and he's from Lebanon, northern Lebanon, but lived in Beirut for a long time, and I introduced Hamad into him, and it was just like, it felt like natural, like, wow, like the way this town brings people together is wild. Like you're here. Yeah. But the cool thing is like in Galena, there's a beautiful history, like our President Grant was here. 9 generals, Civil War generals lived here. Galena was a pivotal role in the Civil War of the United States. So the history goes deep, about 200 years. Next year will be our 200th year anniversary. So it's, beyond that, we have an explosion of tourism, I would say, which brings, again, different people from all over the world. Like Hamad can tell you kind of his point of view of being from a bigger city in a different country. And, you get all of it here, which is wild. And people won't think that. They're like, oh, you live in a town of 4,000 people. But if you see, we have one of our, it was interns and now employees, Nikesh, is from Nepal. He's went to school in Dubuque, Iowa at Loris, and now he's living here in Galena and working for SoundSafe. And it's funny because he's like, I doubt I'm probably the only Nepalese person here. Little did he know there's a local tattoo shop called Emerald Buddha in Galena. Then she's from Nepal. And then we actually have some new residents who purchased the gas station called the Galena station, and he's from Nepal. So like, it's weird. A lot of people wouldn't expect that in such a tiny town. But again, I think the diverseness and the community is probably what makes me like be obsessed with this place. I'll probably never leave, and I'll always call this place home.
Absolutely. That sounds awesome. Hamad, what do you think? Like, Galena, like, I know, like, when you first came in and stuff like that, like, it was just like you were flying in, flying out, and then you slowly, like, fell in love with the place and everything. But what has made you just stay here? And, like, obviously, people consider so many different things, right? You want a future for our children out here and everything.
Right. Well, that's definitely within that bracket, the whole family values vibe. To me, Galena really represented the whole as seen on TV aspect of things.
Coca-Cola effect.
Yeah.
That's what he said.
It's the whole Coca-Cola factor. That's something I coined to really outline what American pop culture has really done to the world and its effects. Galena is a poster town. That represents that a lot. We even have, the worn down Coca-Cola sign on the wall. It's picturesque. Something about it, like I'm not even a baseball fan per se, but to hear that has Field of Dream connotations out here, even though that's the neighboring state. Part of me really, 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 really got swept away when I heard beyond what it is for the Civil War history that it had, the generals, like Johnny said, the Lincoln speeches that occurred right here on Maine. That resonated a lot. And then eventually organically with everything that, the corporation was doing and everything the company was doing, there was just uncanny, uncoincidental stuff that's just, when they say like it's God-given and it just falls right into place. Down to the geography, Galena has that for me as well.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And one thing I would say is like, with everything going on in the world and like all the disconnection, if there's anybody on either side that kind of like has any view of even Americans, which I'm sure there's both of every side, come to Galena and you'll see like, when you come here as from anywhere in the world, it seems like you're blended in. Yeah. And I think that's one of the things that kind of I love. It's like with all the chaos in different parts of the United States and the world, if you come to the middle of America and towns like this, you forget about it.
Yeah. No,
and nothing matters. Your race doesn't matter. Whether you talk a different language, whether your skin's a different color, nothing matters. And I think that's what Galena, the beauty of Galena is. But we still have that small town, history and a kind of community where we are a big tourism hub, but I think it all comes down to who comes together in this town, from the business owners to the city. We're very well involved. We're part of the Chamber, GDBA, which is the local downtown business association, working with the sheriff's department, the schools, the police, almost everything you can do in your community. That really kind of, I think, gave us a little more passion for what we do and why, just because it's in our backyard.
Absolutely. I think that's great and really inspiring work that you guys are doing. And it's really nice to see that whatever model that you guys, kind of decide to go forward with, you guys like try to like kind of envision that with the fullest potential and work on that with the fullest potential and capacity, like working with really skilled people like Nikesh, like Zach and everything. You guys have state-of-the-art equipment out here, state-of-the-art models that you guys are running. So, I can't wait for the really amazing thing that's in store for you guys. And kind of segueing more into like the tourism stuff, I would love to hear more of like a formal introduction about Galena.
Definitely.
And, what is it going to be? What vision do you have in mind? And, how you could use these models, for different cities of Illinois or, other cities in the United States.
Yeah. So, Galena, this came out, my media background and Hamad's media background of building websites, logos. We've been doing a lot in the community and tourism for business. I'm working with our tourism board in the past and local businesses recently. We just kind of sat there one day. I was in a conference with some people out of Singapore, and a bunch of other people in the blockchain space, but we just always met and talked. But one of them was like, this is how it all came apart for me. One of them was talking about tourism and AI and how it was going to really transform tourism.
Yeah.
In Singapore and a lot of those countries.
And this was in Galena?
No, this was just a digital online thing. This was during the during the Twitter days of Twitter Spaces. Yeah. So there, we just were conversating, and long story short, one of the guys was just talking about how powerful AI and tourism was going to be just because of data. Okay. Because tourism is based off of data. You know, how much you come to a place, how much they spend, how much traffic, you know, whatever it is, analytics from marketing even. At the end of the day, it's data and technology. Right. And a lot of media, you know, is involved in kind of tourism because you have to showcase places. Absolutely. So we wanted to fuse our backgrounds, you know, like we were working in tech, deep tech, like our whole core, I guess Hamad's mission was, our mission was research, you know, like that's what we like to do is just come up with novel ideas, but see where the gaps are and see if there's something we can really keep reiterating on and build stronger than anybody else could, and just kind of show the gaps that we could fill. Yeah. That's what kind of drove Book Galena to bridging that media and tech. So Book Galena, what Book Galena was and is an AI trip planner. But first and foremost, Galena's, you know, search engine, you know, Galena's LLM, with emerging apps like ChatGPT, Kimi, and a lot of these other amazing search engines. We noticed there was a disconnect in tourism in Galena, and not with businesses or anybody, but just how people experience Galena. I worked at a bar for many years and started out bartending, worked my way up to general manager, and that was Blum Brothers Distilling Company. Right. So during that time, I was building my companies, managing artists, building our tech company, and it really gave me insight to like how this town communicates with tourism and how business communicates tourism. Businesses are really busy to market themselves. We're a tourist destination, so there's some parts of the month that are a lot slower. So we saw the gap in that, and I noticed a lot where people would come to towns, or even I would travel to towns. And if I went there frequently, like Miami or anywhere, I would always go to the same spots because like, hey, you know what it's going to taste like, you know what it's going to be like. But Galena has so much more to offer. So we wanted to be able to show people that there's easier way to navigate this town, not only through booking and reservations, but communicating. You want to do so many things, but you can only talk to a handful of people in 5 minutes. Yeah. But with technology, leveraging that, you can make more connections with humans and book more experiences and do more if you knew how close things are, when things are open, you know, everything as far as a business can offer. But we wanted to bridge that with media. So we wanted to give back. One of our big core missions is filming content for a lot of these businesses every quarter and every year to be able to give them some relevant content and collaborate with our app and our social media. And that's what it is. I would say it's an AI itinerary app, but it's built on Galena, and Hamad can dive into like the intelligence side of it and what it really means and what it really can do. And off that research, Hamad stumbled upon parking, which we all know that was an issue in every town, in every busy small city. But we're finding ways to kind of navigate that, which parking heat meter came up randomly off our research that Hamad kind of expanded into building into the app here soon. So it's going to start off with just, you know, your search engine for Galena, showing what businesses you can go to, and then eventually booking and making your whole trip to Galena, you know. Absolutely. Hamad, do you want to kind of expand on that? Sure.
We've all used, you know, ChatGPT, Google, this, that, and a variety of everything in between. You know, you get very quick, accurate answers, but there's always, you know, the nuances, the more subtle, more niche stuff that gets lost. This is what this app does for the town. It gives a more closer sense of touch with the locals, the tourists, and the businesses together. These are the three things that make up the ecosystem here. It was important for the app to cater to all three equally and not just be one, you know, lane per se. A lot of the technology in it is state of the art, modern, but we did great by taking in a lot of the stuff we have from SoundSafe in terms of its R&D in the back, for the parking issues, for the data crunching. A lot of the analytics are, brought together with a lot of the stuff we build in the other corporation. But Galena in itself is going to be an evolving portal more than an app per se. It's going to be a nice single point of expanding on finding things or planning your day, or whether you are, just cruising by, or somebody who lives here, or even if you're a business yourself and you use it to know what other businesses are doing, and then through that portal, depending on what tier you're on, you can connect with these businesses and create, more deeper experiences for both your clients. It's going to be very, very, very new in terms of its interaction.
You can create like events and stuff on the application as well.
Eventually, we want to.
Okay. And then is there going to be like a model where people can talk to each other, like a community hub?
Yes. Like I said, at first, we wanted to build something simple, which is the search. Sorry, the first thing we wanted to build would be the chat, like conversating, asking questions, which we call Jack, which is named after Jack Tredney, one of our co-founders of Book Galena. And he's the face, if you see him, he has curly hair. He's one of the musicians of Galena, born and raised Galenian, showing you Galena. Awesome. And that's the thing, I guess, to touch back to one thing Hamad said that kind of stuck out to me was there's a broad disconnect between not just tourism in Galena, even locals navigating our town. We saw issues of locals not wanting to come down on the weekends because of the parking and how busy it is. Oh, wow. And we're like, some of the times that's when a lot of the liveliness of this town and events are happening. So it's unfortunate to hear locals don't want to navigate, but with the app, we think it can empower locals to even the same extent as tourists, because I love doing stuff in my town, and parking is an issue, and we're trying to help with that, but also knowing what businesses have to offer, their hours, their menus. One thing we're going to do is make sure that we connect with every business to make sure that these things are updated and seamless, centralizing everything for businesses and locals and tourists, because there's just every business is trying to market themselves. Mm-hmm. Every, the tourism board is trying, and agencies doing what they can as well. Our local chamber is doing what they can to empower businesses. There's so many organizations and there's so much going on that we wanted to use intelligent way of bonding all this together. One unified kind of place.
That makes sense. And I guess that would be something that you guys offer as like a unique value proposition compared to other models that are of like similar nature, right?
Yeah. An example, I think that, like you said in the beginning, this can go beyond Galena. Yeah. We want to show Galena as a use case, but again, white labeling this can expand to broader areas. So many cities have issues like we have, and I wouldn't say issues because these are good problems as being busy and having new businesses come every year. It's just humans can only do so much. Right. But we need to keep the human in the loop. Absolutely. So the best way to do that is use technology to make people connect to more places and conversate with more people. Because at the end of the day, we use artificial intelligence, but the way we're using it is to bridge people to do more things in our town, to see more things and meet more people, from businesses to tours, locals even. Kind of, again, it's more than just an app. I would say it's going to really show what towns and cities can offer, and in a faster way.
Absolutely. So is there a way that all these three models, Book Galena, SoundSafe AI, and Invasivemedia, work in conjunction?
Ironically, yeah, there's a way. So Invasivemedia is kind of been our baby. That was the birth of bringing me, Zach, and Hamad together. Zach being amazing videographer and photographer, me being the manager and businessman and marketing engine. Now we've all created our own lanes instead of all of us trying to do everything. Hamad used to shoot videos and edit videos. So it's like, oh, really? He comes from that too. He comes from editing websites, editing music videos, editing music. I come from editing music, me and Hamad have the same background headaches. Yeah. And Zach, thankfully, Zach now doesn't have to do everything himself. He's bringing people on his team. So the birth was Invasivemedia, and I think that can cover, SoundSafe when it comes to branding and marketing. It saves us a lot. That's why we always been ahead of the image of tech. If you see a lot of startup tech companies, they're kind of their media and marketing is kind of
media is the biggest thing, in the economy.
Yeah. And most tech companies, they lack that. I would say a large amount of startups don't even know where to start their background tech in tech and not media. So we had that. But that connected to, building SoundSafe, our tech company. Now we have a marketing engine and we know how to market and brand our business. But our research, from using our research from SoundSafe and bridging our media and tech background and the birth of Galena, even evolved in using our videography and Hamad stumbling upon building parking heat meters with our cameras in Galena by the things we've been researching in SoundSafe. So it's like the traits that SoundSafe are bringing can even be used in Galena in a different form. So it's the retooling. I think that's the biggest thing I've learned from being involved with research in Hamad is what we see that businesses don't think about is they build something and they're like, oh, let's sell it. It's fine. And then when businesses come back that they license it or buy it from, we're like, hey, well, here's a new update. We rebuild it. They have to go rebuild it and retool it. Where we try to think of things that can retool off itself. So like we'll build a product like our audio watermark, for example. That was the first thing we thought of was how do we track, audio watermarking? Cool. Hamad's like, in 3 to 4 years, this is going to be an issue. Everybody's like, you're 10 years out. Deepfake came in 2 years. Bam. We thought about that years before that. So it's like the emerging traits that one thing came. He can kind of explain, the retooling thing was the biggest factor.
It was a big thing, both on the business model for, mitigating costs and, OpEx, CapEx, all that stuff. But also we saw that it was breaking supply chain for a lot of things, especially on the software side. People think supply chain, what are you buying? What are you getting? Well, personnel. Baseline education is a tool in itself. Having somebody working on a specific project, and then once we're done that, having them refitted and reformatted or reoriented into something else completely different, wouldn't be efficient as a startup because we don't have that much of a staffing to play with. Yeah. So organically, we looked at all our solutions to make sure there's always an umbilical to its previous one. To avoid retooling from scratch, including our software. That aspect is going to spill over to hardware as well.
Yeah, and then just to piggyback off that, why we brought that up was just because the research in SoundSafe built some of the things that we're going to be building into Galena. And if you look at it, it was kind of just like an umbrella effect of like them merging together. 3 completely different things. Obviously, they all 3 need each other. Like, we can't do anything without Invasivemedia because we'd have to hire a media marketing company to do our video content, our photos for both companies, Galena and SoundSafe. So naturally, things just developed, and it was kind of cool to see. And that's the beauty of being a research company first when it comes to tech is experiment.
Absolutely. So, with all these 3 models, what do the next 5 to 10 years look like?
Break it down. I'll do SoundSafe. It's quick. We want to become a full service marketing studio and warehouse. My dream is to have our own studio where we can create a short film, everything you can think of, from small social content to big projects with multiple players. Thankfully, bringing you in, and I'm sure we'll talk about that in here in a little bit. What we plan on doing together, but. Invasive, we want to be a bigger studio. It service everything from Galena to Hollywood. Absolutely. And that's the dream for Invasive.
SoundSafe, it's an R&D company. We're always going to be iterating. So as long as we're on the map, it's pushing out, and pushing the bar up. As a company in itself, we'd love to see us go public in the next 5, by the end of the decade. We'd like to see us be, a multinational within the next 2 decades. Absolutely. So that brings us to, the short-term vision of, going exponential, with our products, releasing our flagship products and following them up with a lot of the goodies that we have. And as we touched back earlier, There will be a transition to hardware where we're going to embody a lot of what we're doing software wise.
That's the end goal.
Yeah. It's not an easy transition, so we're preparing for a soft landing as much as we can with it. And we say soft, quote unquote, because there is no such thing. It's you hit the ground running, especially with that. It's not going to be a soft transition in per se, but it's worth it. We're forging a new future in terms of what we're doing with all three models. Content and expression is exactly what it is. It speaks for itself. It's how you package things. Everything with Book Galena is itself, the philanthropy and humanitarian part, understanding what people, how they move, how they want, how they consume. SoundSafe, our R&D, outfit, Black Box, which is our own version of Skunkworks, is pretty much the think tank, trying to always do the impossible. We're not trying to, reproduce or, do anything that is a low-hanging fruit per se. So we're going after things that are deemed even borderline delusional.
Yes. I would say the future with SoundSafe, my vision, like Hamad said, we want to go full embodying our own from software to hardware, including like our own. My dream and Hamad's dream is this manufacturing facility. We want to bring something to where our area is because we're lacking big corporation in a good way, not a bad way, where we want to bring in more small families, more jobs. And we know in the future, in a 5 to 10 year run, we can do that. Awesome. And for Book Galena, the future with that is endless. I see it everywhere in the world. The model used, the white labeling. Again, it came from the best way I like to explain it is it came from the birth of Galena. Like when you come here, you'll find out what it means. And when you use the app and the website, you'll understand. It's just so nice to be able to navigate with something. But again, I see this touching everywhere from, Dubuque to Dubai, so that's the goal, and again, not saying like, oh, we're going to sell out to big corporations because we'll always want to keep building this, but we want every country to be able to have this opportunity, not just a small town in the United States.
Yeah, no, that's for sure. Being in different countries and, kind of at this kind of, place where, AI is like evolving and every single country, they have like so many skilled developers and, entrepreneurs out there that are building like similar models and stuff like that. I think the way that you guys are doing is so amazing because, the three models that work in conjunction and kind of support each other. And then, heart of it is R&D. It really makes for something that, can be super successful in the future. So I wish you guys all the best luck with that. And, I can, I want to contribute as much as possible,
100%.
This is such an amazing vision. So tell me this, right? What is behind all of this? Like, how do you guys structure that faith behind, this, working out in the best possible way, right? Because with your level of experience, right? Like you guys could be working like a
normal job,
man,
earning like so much more money, but you guys are keeping so much faith within these models and kind of like working with each other and stuff, and like a, sort of like growing from like a small town then into this huge idea that could inspire.
Faith definitely is a factor. I would say that's probably the driving factor.
And without being whimsical, I would say, in my experience, I came to see there's no such thing as job security. Risk is risk, so might as well do it our way. But I wouldn't imply it to anybody else because it has to be a calculated risk to a certain degree. You got to take your measures and your weights and know what kind of risk you're going with, and if it makes sense with what you're able to tangibly do. But like John said, I think it's the belief in the unseen. It's really unfalterably seeing a vision and not letting that get disrupted in any way.
Yeah, I would say for me, I guess for people that grew up with like nothing and kind of big dream, big goal aspects and aspirations, the biggest, I would say the biggest issue or the biggest thing, my bad, I'll restart. I would say how to keep the drive. Your question is like, how do you keep your faith in something you, like Hamad said, the unknown? it definitely has to do with like what's your decision. I think at one point for me, I got the opportunity to work at Blum Brothers Distilling Company and work my way up to general manager and getting mentored by that Mike and Matt Blum. It gave, like, I had a choice. I could stay in the business world in 9 to 5, or I could take the opportunity of what I've learned in business through Mike and Matt, the owners of Blum, and everything I've gathered through my decades of life, and kind of just take the risk. But there's two choices. Like, either you want comfort or you want to change the world. And I guess whatever it is in life, it could be anything. You just have to take the risk. And for me, it was just more personal. I think, like, I wanted to be the X factor. A lot of people are like, you know, like, again, this last 4 years have been interesting because, like you said, we had normal jobs.
Yeah.
We were making salaries. We have houses and cars and normal. And then when we all decided to move in together and take this big leap, we lost our cars. We sold our cars. I totaled mine. Hamad sold his apartment, sold all our clothes, all like the luxury stuff we had in life, watches, all that stuff. All the materialistic things became irrelevant when you were living with 3 people and trying to focus on one goal. But it's not for everybody. I don't recommend it. I do wish there was more people like this. But once you do it, you understand why. Because one of the biggest things we dealt with and everybody deals with is depression. But imagine doing it without comfortability of income, and having family with the same issues and trying to support them at the same time. Wow. you watch life go by. Yeah. And I think that was something me and Hamad had to, we had to deal with really crazy things, like Hamad's father passing, my grandma, one of our best friends, both of our best friends passing, like during the time of us, trying to raise money for a startup and investing all the money we were making into that. And then all 3 paying rent, having girlfriends and trying to have a normal life was an eye opener. Probably like something I would never give the world for it, because it made us who we are today, and what we have today now and what we're doing wouldn't have been possible without the work you put in, and I guess that, that's my point of view. Absolutely.
So what is the next step for all these different models that is going to propel you into like light years forward?
Yeah, I would say for SoundSafe right now, we're in fundraising mode. Me and Hamad's managing our development team. I'm still recruiting a lot of new interns, partnerships, pilot projects. The 3 top things for SoundSafe right now, we're opening up a raise, developing an R&D and black box like it's none other. Like Hamad's gunning right now, and building this internship program. A lot of businesses don't like the internships ideas because they can't work like they do. Yeah. But the way and the people that I bring in and the way Hamad has worked with them, we mold people to be excellent in what they do. Not like be we want to say we're the best, but again, we push people to be the best. And that's what the cool thing is. Like, you'll see it when you're around us more, is just, people are like, why are you guys doing so much things? It's because people think they can only do 3 things, which when they find out they can do 6, 7, maybe 10 things at one time, the entrepreneurship side just accelerates, Hamad, you can give a better explanation on like where we're going to be and where we're at now. What's our focus?
The next big step, now that we're full blown into a raise, we're trying to close that as soon as possible so we can close the doors again and get back to fully building. We're always building, whether,
money or not.
Guiding the ship, keeping the troops' morale up, giving them the resource that they need. That's no easy feat. In this industry, we understand the resources that are required, from, rooming to computers to compute and cloud services and software licenses, this, that, and the other, and everything has to be done in a prompt time. So there's a lot to do, and there's a lot of moving parts. What's going to make us soar is once we close this raise, we're going to be substantially of a lean team, with potential to, go to market strong the way we've outlined and envisioned it. And this time next year, we'll be looking at the early stages of what would be our first price round, which would set us off for a multi-year runway at that point.
Nice. This is for SoundSafe.
Yeah,
Yep.
correct.
And then for like, I would say for invasive, what was the question? Restart.
So basically, like,
What will take off?
What would propel you like forward, like, like.
So for invasive, with your question of what would help or what's propelling us and what will help propel us and what we plan on doing. Right now, kind of what we've been doing with Invasive, I built an amazing internship program with Invasive and SoundSafe, local colleges, media company, different people from different organizations. And I want to keep propelling that even more and more creatives. I want to build a creative hub in Galena. Absolutely. I want people to come from all over the world to be able to, a space to create, a space to live and stay if they want to come here. That's the dream, is a creative space for everybody that wants to visit this town. But again, I think that one of the biggest additions to Invasive, currently is probably you. Like bringing you and your team, your videography background, your photography background, your tech background, community background, your organization. I think having another same-minded like me and Zach on the media side will help us grow a lot. And I think us being team up like this together from here to Chicago, we'll be able to do almost, like the Hollywood stuff we want to do someday and the tourism things we want to bring too.
Yeah, no, absolutely. It takes a great team to kind of, achieve all these different things, because there's so many different moving parts, as Hamad mentioned, one person can't keep track of all of them, you need like similar minded people, but then, but different roles, vision, handling different responsibilities and stuff. But it's been a pleasure, talking to both of you guys and getting to know more about these different models. And I can't wait to see what future has in store for you. As I was talking to Zach yesterday, it's really fate, that has kind of brought us together. And, like it was Simple Kaladi's video that, you sort of saw and, reached out to me on stuff like that. And, I had no idea that, all these different models exist and all these different things, were actually in existence. And, it's so inspiring to see all these different things. And, you guys kind of trying to accomplish this together. And, I can't wait to be like a larger part of it. But thank you guys for having this conversation.
Thank you so much.
Telling our viewers and listeners about all these amazing things that you guys are doing, and please let us know your Instagrams and any of the social media channels.
So for Invasive, it's at invasive.media. You can follow us on everything. Book Galena, it's Book Galena everywhere, and SoundSafe, soundsafe.ai. From our websites to our social medias,
TikTok, Instagram.
Yep, everything.
Absolutely.
And then personals, I guess if you want to follow any of our personal journeys, mine's at Johnny or TIS Johnny. And then
mine is real Hamad Dada.
Yeah.
And then Zach mentioned his Instagram yesterday it's Yo Dad Zach.
Yo Dad Zach. Yeah. So
Yo Dad Zach.
Funny story while we're wrapping up. Hamad's always had a producer name for social media, and Zach's always had a media name. I convinced both of them to use their original name because a lot of people kind of, use a different name, an alias. Yeah. So Hamad changed him to his government name, and Zach changed him to a little bit different, but his name, and that's something funny that we always had recently.
No, absolutely. But you guys will see Hamad and Johnny in like future podcasts and, all these different content structures we have. But thank you guys for listening, and thank you guys for tuning in. And until next episode, as the out.